Welcome back, my friend, to the Restoring Dharma series, where we aim to restore truth, harmony, and the natural way back into the cosmos, here on this beautiful land of Earth that we live in. You see, I believe that today the spiritual world is in a rough place. It's in a rough place. You see, on one hand, we have too much rigidity and order, and on the other hand, we have a lot of chaos. Okay, so my aim with this series is to bring the balance between the order and the chaos, and bring a nice framework that each of us can apply on a day-to-day basis to give us a life of fulfillment, direction, and purpose, and one that also serves the whole in a way that is congruent to each and every one of our own nature. Okay, so this is the third episode in this series. And if you're new here, my name is Ali, and I'm happy to have you join us on this journey. I promise you, this is going to be an amazing video. So just sit down, relax, grab a cup of tea or something, and let me cook. Okay? So before getting into today's topic, which is the 4 spirit archetypes, I want to give a quick rundown on last episode. Okay, and if you watched the last one, you can skip this section. I'll put timestamps on the video. But just a quick rundown, right? What is this framework that we're working with here? Right? So the framework is, we have the one, which we call the self or God. And from the one emerges different selves. Everything that is, so each, me and you, we're each a self that emerged from the one. And each one of these selves has a color or has a nature, right? So each of these selves, right, would have a color. So the topic of last video was understanding, okay, where do these colors come from, right? And so we got into the 3 gunas, right? So the 3 gunas are like 3 archetypal forces that operate on all levels of existence, on all dimensions. And so this also operates on the level of our spirit. And these 3 forces are sattva, which is an upward, light energy. Think of air, think of ether, just a light energy. You have a grounding energy, an energy that comes and brings down, like solidifies. That is tamas. And then we have the outward rajas energy. This is rajas. It's an activity energy associated with fire. Right? So you have up, and then in the human, the upward energy is associated with mind energy. Downward energy is associated with like the body, being in the body, being rooted in the earth, like feeling the world. And then we have the rajas, which is the activity energy. How much activity, like, do you like to get your body moving? Do you have a lot of active thoughts? Like that kind of energy. It's an outward energy, right? And we said that each human has a composition of these 3 forces, right? So we have an example here about 50% sattva, 30% rajas, 20% tamas. And then based on the composition here, you can determine where you fall on this map, right? So someone of this nature would fall somewhere over here, which would give them the red color or the red varna, which is color in Sanskrit. So we created this map, we split it into quadrants, right? We have the 4 spirit races, or we're going to call them spirit archetypes. And each of these are actually given a name, right? Traditionally, each of these sections was given a name. This is the Brahmin in this section, the Kshatriya here, the Vaishya here, and the Shudra here. Now, you may recognize these as the 4 castes that you see in India today. Now, unfortunately, the modern day caste system has become super rigid and has completely lost the original meaning of how the original structure was supposed to operate in creating a harmonious collective. Okay? You see, in the modern world, there's a hierarchy. It's like Brahmin is above Kshatriya, is above, but it wasn't supposed to be like that. You see, each of these is just a different energy. Someone who is on this half of the chart has more earth or water energy in their being, as opposed to someone in this section who has more fire or air energy. And just because like fire is not better than earth, or water is not, it's not about it like that. They're different energies. And all of them are equally important in the cosmic masterpiece or the cosmic symphony. So you may be asking at this point, why does any of this even matter? Like, so what? And the reason why this matters is because by identifying your varna or your color or your archetype of your spirit, you can then identify what your dharma is. What is your purpose? What is it that you are designed to do? What is the key you are designed to play in the cosmic symphony? Shout out the philosopher, man. Okay? Because this is how we start to live a life of fulfillment, a life of purpose, a life of direction, a life of intentionality. And this helps us live a life that is spiritually attuned and that is aligned internally and serves the whole perfectly. Okay? So then once we develop this framework, we were saying, okay, let's say we take this person, boom, they are red. So their spirit is red. And why is this important? It's important because their spirit's at the core, our spirit's at the core of our being, right? And we talked about how a human is a mind, body, spirit complex. And from the spirit emerge the mind and the body, right? So by understanding your spirit's nature, you're understanding yourself at the deepest level that you can. And once you identify that, then everything is going to click. So here, this person is red. And today, we're going to be getting into in more detail about these archetypes. It's going to be a fun video. It's so juicy. I promise you. I prepared for this one. Okay? So the final topic we talked about last time was this idea of the collective organism, right? Traditionally speaking, in the Dharmic society, each of these roles or energies is associated with a different part of the body. Because remember, there is a collective organism. We are creating a collective organism as a society. Like each of us has a body, and we have our heart cells, our brain cells, we have our skin cells, we have all these cells, and they all know their roles, and they each of them fulfills their dharma or their varna, their color, perfectly, and as a result, the whole system functions properly. So, we have each of these associated with a different body part. So today, we're going to break it down. For each of these colors, each of these archetypes, we're going to break down, we're going to give them a refined name. All right, this is a big moment in history on this YouTube channel. I'm going to redefine these names in a way that is more easily understandable in the modern world. And I'm going to get into detail about, okay, what kind of roles fit in each one? What kind of currency do you want to collect and give? You see, in the modern world, we are taught there's only one currency. It's money. Well, I'm here to tell you that's false. There are many different currencies. And today we're going to talk about 4 currencies. The 4 different currencies. And by understanding your color, your varna, your cosmic key, then you will understand what currency you will be, which currency that by collecting that currency and sharing that currency, you will find a life of fulfillment and purpose, and find the garden of peace in your heart. Okay, so with that, I'm going to clean up the board here and then continue the video. This is terrible. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I cleaned up the board and I just drew this guy. Honestly, drawing is not dharmic for me. So like, you can laugh at me, but this is our cosmic, this is our collective human, okay? The collective, I'm just gonna call it the collective organism, okay? And as we said, each of the colors is associated with a different body part. So today, we're going to get into the 4 spirit archetypes. First archetype, originally it would be called the Brahmin. We're going to call it the sage. For a feminine version of this, it will be called the priestess. Okay. Second category. Traditionally, these are the kshatriyas, the warrior class. What we're going to call them is the guardian. Or for the feminine version, it will be the queen. Next, we have the merchant. The feminine version will be the matriarch. Finally, we have the what traditionally would be called the Shudra. We're going to call them the craftsmen. Let's go. Or the artisan for the feminine. Now remember, each of these is equally important for the cosmic organism to function properly. So now I want to give a brief description of the different functions of each of the spirit archetypes, right? What is the function that each archetype is supposed to play in the cosmic harmony? So the sage or the priestess, their function is to bring knowledge and meaning and wisdom to the collective. You see, because these people of this archetype are naturally more in the mind, right? They're naturally more sattvic. So they're able to bring forth knowledge and meaning and spirituality in a way to the rest of the organism that others maybe are not able to do as well. So by the sage or the priestess orienting themselves towards that, then the organism works properly. So what are some examples? You know, becoming a spiritual teacher, becoming a philosopher. If you're a priestess, maybe you get more into like the intuitive side of life, you know, the astrology, the tarot reading, all that. There's an intuition with it. It's about wisdom and intuition. The next color or the next archetype is the guardian or the queen. You can think of these as the leaders, the protectors. They are associated with the arms and the upper torso. You see, sage or the priestess is associated with the head. The guardians and the queens are associated with the torso and the arms. So they're the protectors. They're the ones that bring order and security to the collective, right? They're the leaders. So in a modern sense, these could be something along the lines of like leaders in sports, leaders in the world, leaders in politics. This is the guardian or the queen archetype. And later on, we're going to get into, for each of these archetypes, there's two energies, actually. There's a Dharmic energy, which is service to others, service to the collective. And there's an Adharmic, or a service to self energy, which is an inward greedy energy. And today in the modern world, there's a lot of selfish energy. So the whole thing is busted. So yeah, the guardians or the queens, they are the protectors and the leaders. Next up, we have the merchant or the matriarch. They're associated with this region, the gut region, because they are the sustainers of the organism. They are the ones that are able to generate value. They're able to build and produce and generate value, in this case, in a monetary sense. Right? They produce with their own ideas. They're in the world, right? So they're able to produce and build things. Like, think of a farmer, right? Think of a trader. Think of one who is able to take ideas and then create more value out of it in a direct sense, from a money sense, right? So this is the merchant, this is the matriarch. And today, this is kind of the energy that is ruling the world, right? The businessman, the entrepreneur. It's an entrepreneurial energy, that kind of energy. It's about resources. It's about wealth and resources. And then finally, we have the craftsman or the artisan. And these are people who are just, they're so in their body, they're in the earth, and they can really build things and design things. So this is about building and craftsmanship. You see, as a human, we are both of the mind and of the body. And everything that we live in, even this house, everything, it's the foundation of life. And all of this is built by the craftsmen or the artisans. Right? So this includes, like in the modern world, might include things like carpentry or construction working or fashion or anything of that nature. And it's about mastery. It's about skill. It's about mastery of craft. That is this energy, the craftsman or the artisan. So this is a high-level view of the 4 general archetypes. And by identifying what your archetype is, now you can understand, okay, you're either in here, maybe you're somewhere in a hybrid. Again, it's not a perfect science here. But remember, the whole purpose of this is to, once you identify your spirit archetype, then you can start to orient your life towards that. And this brings me to the next topic. The next topic is going to be the 4 currencies. I'm going to do it over here. The 4 currencies, okay? So I was reflecting on this, right? This is all original. Like, it's not original, but like, you know, I'm trying to make it in a more modern sense. And I was thinking about currencies and what the problem is with today, right? Because in the modern world, we are essentially taught that there's one currency, and that's money. It's all about money, 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 money. But if you really think about it, there are multiple currencies. It's just that we don't really notice it because we're so overly focused on money. And so I created a framework here where I created the 4 currencies, and each of these archetypes actually should measure itself on a different currency. And this is going to make sense as I get through it. So let's start from here just to switch it up. All right. So for the craftsman, the currency is going to be, let's switch up the colors. Let's try to make this a little fun. The currency for the craftsman or the artisan, I'm going to put a little hammer in here. Is about mastery and skill. Okay? So if you're of this archetype, then instead of measuring yourself against money in a bank account, you can measure yourself, or the wealth that you generate is of how much skill and mastery of your craft are you getting, like perfecting that craft. And when you orient yourself towards the perfection of a craft or a perfection of a skill, then you're generating more currency for yourself. You will find that when you orient yourself towards that, then you will find more fulfillment. Then it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account. Of course, you need money to like sustain your basic needs of living. And so that's something we can get into in another episode of like, how do we actually move in the modern world with this framework? Because that is a challenge, and that's where the true spirituality and faith really comes in. But like back to this, it's like when you orient yourself towards that, then you're naturally going to find more meaning and fulfillment. So it's about perfection of skill and mastery of craft. And in the opposite, it's like if you find yourself getting into abstract thinking and like that, then you're going to be pulled away from collecting this currency, right? So, and then we're going to talk about how to share the currency and how that's fulfilling as well. So the next currency is going to be for the merchant, and that's money. It's money. But don't think of it as like just money in and of itself. It's money, it's value creation, right? It's wealth creation. It's about growing resources. It's like you don't want money just for the sake of having more money. The idea is that you want to generate value by building and innovating so that when you get that money, then you can actually share that money. Of course, you keep an amount to yourself, but there's a sharing. See, there's an energy of sharing. So there's like two pieces to it. First, identifying what your currency is, the currency you want to orient yourself towards, and then figuring out how do I want to share that currency and not hoarding it. Okay? The next currency for the guardian or the queen is going to be this is supposed to be like a flexing arm. Oh my gosh, that is so bad. Sorry. I got to do that again. I told you, man, it's not Dharmic for me. Oh my God. You'll have to bear with me. But it's like a flexing arm, okay? Because the currency for the guardian or the queen is responsibility and duty. It's about leadership. Okay, so if you're of this nature, then you want to orient yourself around putting yourself in positions of leadership, in positions where you have to overcome challenges, in positions where you are protecting others, as opposed to on the opposite side, if you put yourself, if you are seeking comfort or like seeking the approval of others, that's going to make you not fulfilled. So if you're of this energy, then of the guardian or the queen, then you want to put yourself in position where you have responsibility and leadership over a group of others in some form. It can literally be over youth, like young kids. It can be in any way, but in some way where you're in a position of leadership, because this is how you collect your own currency. Maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a leader of some other kind. Finally, The sage or the priestess, the currency, is going to be a little light bulb. Dude, this is so bad. Currency is wisdom. Wisdom and truth. You see, by collecting wisdom and truth, and what does that mean? It's like understanding reality, trying to understand reality, it's like kind of like what I'm trying to do right now. It's like I spend so much time trying to understand reality, trying to understand truth from my own direct experience. And that was me collecting that currency of wisdom. And now I want to share it. Share it. Remember, there's 2 steps. Identifying your currency and then collecting it and sharing it. Okay? So these are the 4 currencies. So once you've identified your color, your varna, your spirit archetype, then now you can identify what currency you can orient yourself towards. You see, in the modern world, you kind of have to have one foot in the money world, but now you know where to put your other foot. Right? Now you know where to put your other foot. What other currency should you be collecting and then sharing? Because that's going to put you in alignment with your Dharma. And you'll find the garden of peace, I promise you. Because look, we're in a crazy time. We're in a crazy time. Like the world is crazy. Economically, who knows what's going to happen over the next 5-10 years, right? So economically, there could be a lot of chaos and who knows, right? But if each of us is oriented internally in the correct way, then it's going to be easier to navigate these situations, any hard situations externally. Because internally, you're oriented in the right way. And that external circumstances will have less of an impact on you, on us. Okay? So the final thing I wanted to talk about today is this idea of a Dharmic versus Adharmic energy, or what we're going to call service to others, which is the Dharmic, versus the service to self path. Right? So each of us, once you identify your Varna and your currency, there's still a chance that you are serving yourself only. You're hoarding. And that's going to lead to an unfulfillment. You want to share. You want to be on the service to others path. This is the Dharmic way. So for example, let's take the merchant. This is the most obvious example in today's world. There's 2 energies, right? You generate value, you generate resources, and you either keep all the resources or you share the resources. And so by keeping the resources, what you're doing is you're on the Adharmic, the service to self energy. And that service to self energy is not only going to harm you on an individual level, like karmically, like spiritually. You'll essentially be carrying a weight that you don't realize you're carrying. Not only will it impact you personally, it will also impact the collective organism. The energy is going to get trapped in the digestive area, which is where we are today. Right? Let's take another example. Let's take the craftsman or the artisan. A craftsman or the artisan that is oriented in the service to others, they're going to be like a dedicated artisan. They're going to take pride in their work. You know, you take pride in the fact that you're helping build and create culture and create, bring to life, like bring to solidity ideas of the mind. But if you're in the service to self path and you're trying to do this for your own personal gain, what is that going to do? It might lead you to like become apathetic. It might lead you to become a little resentful or destructive because you're not truly appreciating the value that you're bringing, and you're not going to it with an energy of skill, mastery, and excellence, and that energy and enjoyment. It's not about the money. It's just about the process itself. That's what this energy truly values. Right here, the guardian or the queen, in the right energy, it's a protector, it's a leader, it's someone who's looking out for everyone genuinely. But on the opposite side, if it's a service to self path, what are you going to have? You're going to have the tyrant, you're going to have a tyrant, you're going to have a bully, a warmonger. You're going to have that energy that we see in the world today, the leaders of the world today. Like authoritarian energy. You're serving yourself. So that's this energy. And then finally up here, if like the Dharmic energy it's a teaching energy. It's a spreading of knowledge, a spreading of wisdom, and with an honesty and authenticity to it, and a humility to it, right? But on the opposite side, you might have these like someone who's trying to spread a certain like dogma for whatever reason, or like a false guru, or like something of that nature, right? Someone who like manipulates ideas because they're trying to manipulate people. It's like you're serving yourself. So by first collecting our currency, and then by two, not hoarding it, by sharing it, then each of us individually will find that garden of peace and will find fulfillment. And in another episode, we can talk about, the challenges of how to actually properly do this in a world that is so overly oriented towards money, and in a society that isn't functioning properly. We're living in a society that's all busted. I already told you, bro, he's in the ICU. We're in the ICU, right? And as you can see in this system, there is this beautiful balance between order and chaos. Because if we draw each of our humans, right, our threefold structure, you have human 1 over here, you have human 2 over here. Let's draw another third human. I don't know if the camera will catch that one actually. Let me put them over here. We have these 3 humans at the unit level, at the human level. Each of them is oriented towards a different energy, but it's their true energy. So like for me, let's say I am of this energy, I am of the sage. Then my whole life, my purpose is to be a Dharmic sage. That is how I serve God. That is how I oriented my spiritual life. You see, this brings a structure to the individual's spiritual life. And it's unique to you, as opposed to any like the Western religions where it's just one size fits all. Here, it's like, no, it's unique to you. And by serving your Dharma, by serving it in the right way and orienting your life in that way, it creates an order and structure to your own spiritual life. It's not like all this new age stuff where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to do whatever I want. You're trying to reach enlightenment. Bro, why are you trying to reach enlightenment? That's like it's kind of a selfish, you reach enlightenment by serving this, by sharing. And each person, there is order at the unit level, right? Because each person now has to serve their Dharma. And that's how each person's spiritual life is oriented. But at the collective level, right? We have this beautiful just organism. It's everything is functioning. You have these 4 currencies exchanging with one another. And this is how you build a properly functioning society. And of course, in every society, you're going to have both energies, the service to others and service to self. But hopefully the service to others is like 90% plus, that it overpowers the inevitable, service to self energy that occurs. This is how we structure a society. I'm telling you, man, one day I want to structure a society like this. And the final piece is you'd have like a king, or what is referred to as a chakravartin, who is usually someone of this energy. The chakravartin, which is like the chakra is like the wheel, center of the wheel. They're like the heart pumping. And they are essentially a dharmic guardian. They understand all these principles. They understand that this is how the society functions. And their whole purpose is just to be a bridge between God and humanity. It's just to essentially be a center in which all of this can flow around and everyone has a sense of unity behind it. It is so beautiful. And I really hope one day communities can be built with a structure something like this. I think it could work. Honestly, maybe I'm overly optimistic. But yeah, this is what I had in store today. So now I hope it's starting to all come together, right? Everything we talked about in the last episode of identifying your guna composition, then identifying your varna, your color. Now each of these colors has an archetype associated with it. And then understanding, now that you know your archetype, okay, what kind of currency do you want to be collecting? And then sharing. And then in the next episode, what we're going to do is talk about how to actually navigate in the modern world, because it is a challenge. I acknowledge that it is a challenge, and it is a challenge in my own personal life too. It's like, how do I collect these two currencies, which to me have helped me live the life of fulfillment in a world that wants me to, that I need money to sustain myself. And this is where true spirituality, true trust, true surrender, true courage, true faith, all of that stuff comes in. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I had fun with this. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Take care.